What's up, everybody? Peter X, the So-Coffer here, doing another episode of Classic Songs. Today, we're doing one of those classic ballads. I haven't done a lot of ballads. I started off, what was the first, The Secret Garden, which, so this is the second in that line. I think I'm going to keep it under classic songs, but I think I'm going to do a playlist just as I do ballads because ballads are kind of it's a special category of songs. Kind of gone out of style, not because folks don't know how to write them or folks can't sing. I know, boomers and some Gen Xers always like, well, these young, Gen Z and millennials, they don't know what they're doing. But it's the issue, and I think I touched on it a little bit in the the Secret Garden. Quincy Jones is the length. I mean, you really have to. I mean, it's a journey. You gotta let those songs develop, and traditionally ballads have been longer. But here we are, something the Beatles. This is one of the ballads that is a shorter ballad. I think it clocks in at 3 minutes and 2 seconds. Didn't write it down, but yeah, 3 minutes 2 seconds. We can roll with that. I think that's about where it's at. 311 million streams on Spotify. So yeah, so let's get into what makes this song so special. So let's get rid of some of check off some boxes here. Songs in C major, 66 beats per minute, did hit number one on the US Billboard charts. And when Rolling Stone did their top 500 songs of all time, this one clocked in at 110. So, hey, it's the second most covered Beatles song in the history of Beatles songs. And, of course, yesterday, number one is the most covered song of all time. Love this song. And actually, when I did some performing, a little bit of performing singing-wise, I was in plays in high school. But this is one of the songs I covered. I just love this song. Hey, this song doesn't waste any time. It just jumps in. That six note intro on the guitar, and bam, there you are. Love it. It's just, no wasted motion. I mean, this is a perfection. It's a real masterpiece. So now this was the A side of a single. The B side was Come Together, and this was, George Harrison's first A side single, for the Beatles. And usually back in the day, how it worked, hey, I mean, even younger Gen Z probably don't remember singles, and the millennials and well, younger Gen Xers and Gen Zs aren't going to remember. But so usually when you had this single, the A side was, supposed to be the hit. And a lot of times the B side was throwaway songs. Now Prince would put some risque stuff or like Erotic City, was a B side to a single when he put out Purple Rain. And, Prince would actually put some pretty decent B-sides, but usually B-sides were filler. Of course, the Beatles had a lot of great songs, but this was his first A-side, and of course, Come Together ended up being a smash. And Come Together is, I think, the second most. I was just looking. Second most streamed Beatles song of all time. So Here Comes the Sun is 1.2 billion now. And Come Together 700 million plus. So, hey, but I don't think Come Together hit number one. It probably hit top five, but hey, so it says something, and of course, Here Comes the Sun and something, two of his three biggest Beatles songs were on the same album, Abbey Road. So the song was reportedly something was written for George Harrison's wife, Pattie Boyd. Now, the interesting thing is, When he sat down and started this song, he wanted to write a song like Ray Charles. And the interesting thing is Ray Charles ended up covering the song years later. So, hey, you wanted to do a song that Ray Charles would do, and Ray Charles ended up covering the song. And I don't know if I ever do an episode on Ray Charles, but Ray Charles and Miles Davis are probably the two most important um, musicians in modern music because Ray and Miles were both the Beatles and Prince before the Beatles and Prince. They put a lot of different things together, pulled in a lot of different genres and ran with it. So uh, that speaks to why George Harrison would want to write a song that, Ray Charles would write. Interesting back history. So, George Harrison had problems, getting his songs on the Beatles albums. Usually he got two songs an album just because, Lennon and McCartney outvoted him. And, initially they weren't thrilled, and neither was George Martin with this song. So, and interestingly enough, even though it was very guitar driven, um, he started it all on the piano. So obviously, views on this song changed, and you know uh, things got cooking. Other interesting notes on this song. George Harrison wasn't sure he'd ever get this on the Beatles album, so he was going to give it to Joe Cocker, and that would have been interesting because Joe, "You Are So Beautiful." I'm going to do an episode on that eventually, and Joe Cocker is that Englishman, that very bluesy, sounding, Englishman. And that would have been interesting. If you got something, you got a hold of something. He did A Little Help from My Friends, and that was a big hit for Joe Cocker, but that would have been interesting. The other interesting thing is that the song was originally 8 minutes long, and they cut out a long, pretty interesting piano part. Now it'd be nice, in this day, in this era of I have to check because I think they did. I know they did the White Album. They did a huge, vault release of the White Album, and I have to check to see if they did Abbey Road, and there's a longer version of this from there. But check this out. It gets very interesting what the band did on this. So George Harrison plays rhythm guitar. Paul McCartney's on bass. Here's where it gets interesting. John Lennon was playing piano, and obviously Ringo was on drums, but Billy Preston was also on his Hammond organ. So yeah, you would think, John Lennon, playing guitar, but no. And it's widely believed too, um, many people believe that George Harrison's best guitar solo was also in something. I agree. It's understated. It's quintessential George. It's understated, but every note serves a purpose, and it's not overbearing, but it's powerful. And that's just George Harrison's playing style. I talk about in the soul of the guitar in the classic rock channel about how he had a deft George Harrison had a deft touch with the guitar and knew how um, to say a lot with doing a little. And yeah, this is that again. Now remember, the guitar solo for "While My Guitar Gently Weeps" that's Eric Clapton, so that's a good solo too. But that's on Eric's greatest hits as far as guitar solos. But this is his guitar solo here is beautiful. Short and sweet, but very very powerful, and sort of fits the whole flow of the song. Hey, just checking out. So the other great accomplishment to this song was the strings that George Martin put in after the band played, and he did this a lot. But this is before synthesizers, so these were real strings, and man, the strings really add a nice touch to this. The let me see here. So David Fricke, Rolling Stone, has a great description of this song and why it's so great. Um, Two moods in one, he says. The yearning of the verse, the words, and what he's trying to get across. And then he said the golden thunder of the bridge. Because there is, it's understated, and bam, you have that bridge and, the explosion in the middle of the song, and then it pulls back in. But yeah, that's why, perfect description, is why this is a classic song. Now, when you think of music, it is really everybody says that the international language is music, and in many ways it is because I didn't know what Shabba Ranks was saying back in the dance hall days. I still don't know what the reggaeton folks are saying, but it doesn't matter. I mean, if it's banging, it's banging, it's good, and that is the power of music. And this song reminds me of Love at First Sight, because you got those six notes. Du, 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 du. Then you're into the song. It's just like, you see that person for the first time, and it's fleeting, and they might go. You might never see him again. What do you do? And it's just almost like there's an urgency to the song that it kind of has that feel, and it's like, no games, no lines. I'm just jumping in, saying hello, trying to make conversation and connect, and trying to connect. And man, it's just you listen to this song and you're like, hey, I can do this. It'll work. It is the song has that power. Just jump in and show your true self, so to speak. So love this, love the song. It's tender yet it's intense. And there's just a genuineness about it that comes across. And that's why it's a classic. That's why it's a classic. So yeah, I had to do something, one of my all-time favorites. And they're going to be rocking this in 100 years. So, you could play this at a wedding easily. So, that powerful. So, George Harrison, good job. Love this song. Thanks for coming through. Got 5 albums on the streaming services and connected to this channel here. Have no single coming out in a couple days. The single thing seems to be working well. I'm picking up some steam on Spotify, and I was just talking at the end of the episode, The Secret Garden, about how singles seem to be, and folks have studied it, and on YouTube said, yeah, singles do well on Spotify, and I'm starting to see that. And my singles are starting to to gain some steam. 2 singles this year already. Friday will be a third, and what I'm going to do at the end of the year is take all the singles and do an album with them, and just call it 2024 the singles. Because YouTube and my singles, So, and basically the two big ones, as far as volume wise, is YouTube and Spotify. Supposedly Pandora, but they don't open up the vault to let us see the numbers, so I have no idea what I'm doing on Pandora. I guess you have to sign with a label to figure out what's going on Pandora. But Pandora, maybe, I mean, whatever, Pandora and YouTube also have some of the lowest payouts, but doesn't matter to me. I'm still making, these singles are making good moves on Spotify, so that's good. But anyway, 5 albums out, connected here on the channel and on all the streaming services. I got 2 science fiction fantasy novels and a novella on Amazon under the name Peter X's Sock Offers. So thanks for coming through, and I will see you next episode.